we installed a sunshade for our RV home base, turning it from this into this. I mean this. But we'll talk about that later.
The best part about it is that we did it all by ourselves and that nobody went to the hospital.
No one died.
No one died, which is great. In this video, we will show you the process and we will also go through a few things that we may do differently if we were to do it again.
It's gonna get so unhinged.
So unhinged. What is up, you guys? It is Sam and Lauren. We are the trailer couple dedicated to a simple life. And it is another gorgeous day to live in the burrito. We recently installed a sunshade and it took us about 2 days, and for all the materials included, it cost us about $400.
Now, before we get into how we tackled this process, let us tell you why we felt it was so necessary to install a sunshade. So we've lived in South Carolina now for one brutally hot summer, and let me tell you, when I say it gets hot in South Carolina, it gets hot to the point where your sweat glands never get to take a break. So this upcoming summer, we decided to be proactive and install a sunshade just to provide some shade during the day, especially since we have Fenton the pup in the trailer while we are at work. We wanted to just make sure that we had that extra measure of providing him some shade and keeping the trailer cool during the day.
We have a big oak that is sitting right behind us after 2 p.m. that does a great job of shading the trailer, but what we're concerned about is the early morning sun rays. So the sun comes up from the east and then it shines pretty much straight through the butt end of our trailer here. So we decided to put in a triangular shaped sunshade. It would cover a little bit of the usable outdoor space and also help us out in the early morning before that oak kind of takes over. We decided to go with a triangular shaped sunshade just because, number one, we didn't need the second half of the trailer covered because of the oak tree. And also my wife said that it would look cute, and apparently square shades are not hip.
So out.
Huey Lewis was clearly wrong. It is not hip to be square.
That's actually a great song. While Sam and I really enjoy do-it-yourself projects, and we did a ton of research before installing the sunshade, we are by no means professionals, and this is our first time doing it, so take everything we say with a grain of salt. Like a big grain. Like that big, probably.
So be easy on us in the comments. But I think it turned out really nicely, so I think you guys can learn a lot from this experience. So we use 6x6 posts. We decided to use those instead of the steel posts. There are some advantages of using steel posts, and they typically last a little bit longer, but they are a lot more expensive. I think if we had purchased those, one post would have cost more than our entire project cost us. Especially where we're at, you would have to special order them, and I think they would have cost like, what would they say, like $2 million?
Yeah, at least $3 million, I think.
It was very expensive.
That's not including taxes.
Yeah. We will get into how we accommodated for the materials that we chose here in a second.
So Sam always reminds me that the most important stage of any project is the planning phase and blah, 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 blah. I think that's the boring part. So once we were done with the boring parts, then it was time to measure where we need to dig our holes to put our big 16-foot posts into. Now, I ordered the sunshade off of Amazon, and it is 28 feet by 20 by 20. So the manufacturer recommended putting the holes wider than the dimensions of the sunshade.
The worst mistake that you can do is to put them too close together, because then your canvas shade will not work at all. It's a little bit too wide. You can always get some like stainless steel little chain links and make extenders to your shade to make it work. But if it's too narrow, it doesn't work at all.
That would be most unfortunate.
Most unfortunate.
Most unfortunate. But after we figured out our measurements, we ended up digging our holes, and the holes were 5 feet deep.
With a shovel.
Yes, that is definitely the harder way to do it, but we got her done. And for everyone at home taking notes about this, please make sure that you check with your local utilities and I guess, is it authorities? Authorities prior to digging, just to make sure that there is nothing that you are going to run into when you are digging, because that is also most unfortunate.
Most unfortunate.
Most unfortunate.
So at the bottom of these 5-foot holes, we put 6 inches of drainage rock. Most people would recommend that you dig your holes about 1/3 the height of your entire post, but when you put in 16-foot poles, it's kind of hard to do without digging all the way to China. We dug our holes about 5 foot, so then 4.5 feet deep once we put that drainage rock in. That just provides a stable base, also helps moisture come out of those 6x6s. We'd heard if you put those posts straight into concrete, then moisture actually can't leave the 6x6s once it goes in there. So we figured that would be a decent way to let moisture out, but we'll let you know how that works out. We might have to do a follow-up video here in a couple of years on it.
And you can use a long 2x4 post to pack the gravel at the bottom of the hole once you've poured your gravel in, and then at that point you are ready to set your posts.
So as we spoke about before, we went and picked up those 6x6s a couple weeks ago. those were pressure treated lumber. So typically you want that stuff to dry out for quite some time before you stain them. But we were pretty antsy to get that sunshade in, so we stained them last weekend so that they were ready to go for the sunshade attachments.
Okay, so at this point we have our 6x6 post stained. We have dug our holes 5 feet. We have put a half foot of drainage rock in the bottom, and we are ready to set our posts. Now I can confidently say that we got our workout in that day moving those posts around, because those things are heavy, and I am honestly surprised that no one got hurt. If you are not physically able to move these posts, do not do this. They are really heavy, and I kid you not, they probably weigh as much as I do. So also something to note here, that a big thing to make sure you do is make sure that the depth of the holes are what you need them to be, because once you put those posts in, it is really hard to get those posts out. That may be coming from personal experience, and we may have a follow-up story on that we may tell at the end of the video, so stick around for that one, because it's good.
It wasn't great.
It's not good.
For us. It's for your enjoyment. So when we set our posts, we tilted them 5 degrees away from the center where the shade is, just because when you pull that shade taut, even with 6x6 posts, pulls those posts slightly inwards. Once we got our posts where they needed to go, we braced them. We just screwed some 2x4s directly in there, and we kept those braces on for a couple days. So then we poured some concrete down in there. So I think we bought like 16 bags of that 80-pound Quikrete stuff. My biceps are still sore from carrying that stuff.
That was a ton of
You strained your bicep.
It was like trying to hold it between my legs and my arms, and using every muscle in my body to try to carry this. Are you really so sore?
I'm so sore.
Oh my god, you need to work out more.
I do.
Here's a thought. For every like this video gets, Sam will do 1 push-up for every like. This is a great idea.
This is a horrible idea.
And he will do them straight. So if we get 10,000 likes, Sam will do 10,000 push-ups straight, and I will take a video of this.
So I don't really think I like this, so we're gonna just move on. Typically, concrete takes about 24 to 48 hours before you can like drive on it and walk on sidewalks and things like that. But we were doing some reading, I'm pretty sure it takes a full month to actually be fully set up. So we compromised, and we waited 1 week after those posts were in before we put up our sunshade, because it sounded like a good idea.
We thought that sounded good. 1 very long week later, because I'm impatient, we finally got the shade up. And remember how we were talking about spacing the poles further apart than you think you should?
Yes, and we did that, and it was a little bit too far, because not only did we space them there, but we also had the 5 degree of tilt away from the middle, so we had to buy some extension chains to make it work, but it turned out great.
And we hung some lights, and voila, perfection.
So in every do-it-yourself project, there's always one moment where you look at your spouse and you're like, we messed up. I don't think we really had one in this project.
No, we didn't. Really?
Which is very rare for us.
Very rare.
That being said, we did toy with the idea of using tethers, because these are very, very long posts. We decided not to do it. Like, have you seen those telephone posts and they have those long cables that come down to provide a little bit more support? We considered doing that with like maybe a little bit of a smaller board, like a 2x4 or 4x4, or maybe even like a metal tether. We decided against it because the plan for this shade is, if we get wind that's like above 40 miles an hour, we're just gonna pop up there and take it down beforehand if we see a big storm blowing through.
Hey guys, so I have to interject here. 2 days after we filmed this video, this happened. And remember how we just said that we were gonna take down the sunshade during severe weather? Well, we kind of lied to you. Or I guess more the weathermen and women of South Carolina lied to us, because we really had to put our quality craftsmanship to the test. So let me just break everything down for you. So a day ago, we were told to expect a mild storm, 20-mile-per-hour winds, some rain, nothing super, super crazy. And then we were at work, and all of a sudden that mild storm turned to severe very, very quickly. And when I say severe, I mean like 60-mile-per-hour winds, rain that was coming sideways, and let's just throw in some lightning and then a few tornadoes here and there. So pretty dang severe. By the time that Sam and I got home, it was kind of too late to be out there in a lightning storm with a few tornadoes just whipping around trying to take down a sunshade. So we left it up, and let me tell you that we were both very, very impressed with how it held up. But let it be known that we will be taking our own advice in the future. So anytime we are expecting any sort of moderate to severe weather, we plan on taking the sunshade down. So we don't have to worry about that anymore. Okay, carry on.
As long as you keep that thing taut enough, as long as you dry those posts deep enough in the ground, I don't think that we're gonna have to put on tethers. But if that changes, we'll obviously make another follow-up video on it for you guys. Anything that you would change?
No, I mean, you always hear those horror stories, right, about people pouring in their cement and then their posts aren't sitting correctly. And we got pretty lucky with that. Our posts actually were sitting exactly how we wanted them. I think the one thing that if we were to do this again, we would take into further consideration is the rotation on the posts. The little eye hole hooks that attach to the sunshade, or I guess the sunshade attaches to, you want to make sure those are all pointing correctly so that when you attach the shade, it's pulling at a comfortable tension on each corner. There was one post, I think it's this back one here, that has a little bit of a rotation on it just because of how the eye hole hook is facing in regards to the sunshade, but otherwise I think everything went off pretty seamlessly. And shout out to the YouTube channel Tiny Shiny Home for giving me the inspiration for the triangular sunshade and convincing Sam of its aesthetically pleasing look. Yeah, they put up some sunshades on their land and gave me the idea for the triangular shade. So if you haven't checked out their channel, you definitely should. They are awesome, really fun to follow, and they have some really good homesteading content that Sam and I have really enjoyed watching.
That is it, you guys. I think we have a story that we need to share with our viewers.
Yes, we do have a story for you all. So remember how I touched on earlier in the video about how important it is to double, triple check the depth of your holes before carrying a really freaking heavy post over to the hole and popping it in? Well, that is only because we bring that information to you from very personal experience. Here we are, carrying over this huge 6x6 16-foot post to a hole, and we dump it in. Now, did we double check the depth of our hole? Yes. Did we triple check it? Probably not. And so then we dump this post in and we stand it up, and the post is much higher. Yes. Like significantly higher than the other posts.
It was noticeable.
So you don't really have an option to sit there and try to dig out this dirt, because we had put the drainage rock in too, and you can't really dig out the drainage rock because you need the 6 inches. So here Sam is trying to deadlift this post out of this 5-foot hole, which is literally as tall as me.
I think what made it so hard was the fact that it's 16 feet tall and like the majority of the weight is above you. So you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
I just like grabbed it and then it started leaning and I just like shoved it. And then it was fine. Lauren and I, when we do projects, we do a very horrible job of documenting it. Like we just like working on projects, and sometimes we just forget to film things. That is one thing I wish that we had on film.
I know. So if you learned anything from this video, make sure you triple check the depth of your holes.
A sail shade is one option of many. So you can buy prefabricated canopies, you can build, bigger structures with wood that have actual shingles on them, but ours is just a little bit more temporary, so this was the right decision for us. We'd love to hear it if you've done similar projects. Maybe it looked a little different. We learn a lot from you guys, so drop them in the comments below. Other than that, I think that is pretty much it.
I think that is it. So happy trails, guys.
Happy trails, you guys.
So fun fact, did you know that 6x6 posts are not actually 6 inches by 6 inches?
Yes. They're actually, I think they're 5 by 5? No. 5.5
by 5.5.
I think they're 5.5 by 5.
That is such a ripoff, honestly.
It's kind of like when you go to the gas station and gas is like $3.99 and like 9/10.
Yeah.
You're like, what is 9/10 of a cent?
9/10? Someone tell me.
Nothing in this world is what it seems.
That's kind of sad. But you might be right.